over it again, just in case. But I think you've answered this already.
Yep, running
Ready?
and speed.
Okay. So you got your Curacao and Japanese visa. Was it before the word spread, or after the word spread, or in the middle of everybody finding out about it?
Before it spread. Wahrhaftig heard about it. That means I had it already, and I took it I took already for some friends. So I got it before the word spread. Because I got it, that's how the word spread.
But did the word spread after the Curacao? You had both visa already. Did you have the Japanese transit visa too, or?
Most probably, I think so.
Okay, so let's go over it again. Give it to me in a full sentence. Try to give me a full sentence.
When Lithuania was occupied, I wanted to leave. So to leave, I needed exit visa. I needed a destination. Obviously, the destination for me was Curacao because it was near to America, and my sister-in-law lived over there. To go to Curacao, I needed a transit because the way was, we went from Kovno to Moscow, and Moscow we took the Trans-Siberian. We went to Vladivostok. In Vladivostok we took the boat for 3 days, and then we were supposed to go from Japan to Curacao. Because of certain circumstances, we changed our mind and we went to the Netherlands East Indies. We had a choice. As a Dutch citizen, a part of the world was, Curacao was open to me, Curacao and all the Antilles, Suriname, and Indonesia. My choice was Japan because of my wife. But because of other things happens in Japan, I changed my mind and I went to Indonesia, to Netherlands East Indies. That was the name.
So in this whole scheme, when did Dr. Warhaftig comes into the picture?
Right after, he heard from a friend.
Tell me, Dr. Warhaftig heard from a friend.
Pardon?
Tell me his name, because we won't know who he is.
Berkovich. Think of Berkovich. They had a shoe store in Tels. And she was from the same party. Mr. Wahrhaftig was a Mizrahi. Yeah? Before the war, there was a big friction, Mizrahi and Aguda. It was not at today, you know. Zionist and Mizrahi and he heard it, and he called me and asked me to ask the consul whether he would give it en masse. That the consul at that time was Wahrhaftig. And Wahrhaftig said,
Let's go back. The consul was Wartendijk.
The,
Let's go back. It's okay. Let's start again. That's
Yeah.
why we stop and start.
yeah.
So
Okay.
tell me again, when did Dr. Warhaftig, and tell me his name, tell me Dr. Warhaftig entered the picture?
From a friend, from Berkovich, I think was the name, I'm sure, told Wahrhaftig about it. And Wahrhaftig called me and go to the Dutch consul and ask him whether he would give it en masse. Wahrhaftig knew already that I took it for 10 or 15 or 20 people. So he knew I was in the picture, that I had a firm contact with the Netherlands consul. So I went to Zwartendijk, and he said, I have no restrictions. the Dutch ambassador, Mr. De Decker, said I could give. So whoever will come, I give. But he never dreamt it would take such a volume, such a... That is the story, and Waaflik went then round all of Lithuania. Everywhere we went around, and all his friends and all the yeshivas and all the rabbis told them to take a Curacao visa. And actually he is the man who made it. I must admit, it wasn't me. If it was for me, it would only be 10 or 20 people. And of these 20 people, most of them didn't even get, at the end, didn't get permission because they were Lithuanians. They were colleagues of mine from the yeshiva. So that is the bitter story.
Did you ever go and seek advice from Dr. Warhaftig yourself? Did you go to Dr. Warhaftig and ask him, what should I do?
No, I didn't. As far as I remember, I didn't meet him anymore. The first time I meet him back was in Japan. I know one thing I want to tell you, that Warhaftig was sought by the GPO at the end, because it became known that he tells the people to leave this holy Russian empire. And just, that is the Russian way. They didn't find him because he was the day before he left, or he was somewhere else. Anyway, and as far as I remember, the next time I met him in Japan, I worked quite close with him. Close means I was his I was not his policy maker. I was his servant. Yeah, I was his servant. We falsify telegrams, other things, to go to the Netherlands consul. Netherlands consul, maybe I went for my own, I don't know, I don't remember, to the Voogd. But I had quite a lot of contact with him. I think in one of the books he mentions that I wrote that if not for him, I wrote him once a letter and wrote him, if not for him, nothing would have happened. That he is, also in his book you'll find a letter written in Yiddish, which you cannot read. Or maybe it's only in the Hebrew part, I don't know. I have the book here in Hebrew also.
Was Warhaftig part of convincing Sugihara to part of the whole Japanese transit thing?
As far as I know, he didn't have any contact with Sugihara. No. I don't know. As I told you, I don't think that I met Warhaftig a second time in Lithuania. I think after the first time I met him in Japan again, back. He had somebody there who was his secretary. I forgot his name. Groudens, yeah. Yeah, Groudens. He was from the same party also. Mizrahi.
So would you say that Warhaftig role basically was, what was Warhaftig role in this whole scheme in Lithuania? What was his role in Lithuania? How would you describe Warhaftig role in Lithuania?
That Warhaftig's role was, he went to all the yeshivas and all the cities and all the whoever he could reach and all his friends. And even if he would have told to 10 people, it would right away spread to thousands, especially people in anxious people and people in danger and people in everybody felt that he's squeezed, he's in straitjacket. We cannot imagine this time. Everybody was in a straitjacket. Everybody was worried also because most of the people had family in Poland, either in the Russian occupied part or in the German, there was a lot of tragedy. I mean, we difficult to describe. Everybody had this tragedy. Everybody had his personal worries. Was it for a father? Was it for a child? Was it for a mother? For a sister? Everybody who was a refugee from Poland. Everybody.
So at this time, do you know what's going on with your family? Do you still have contact with your family at this time?
With whom?
You, yourself.
With whom?
With your family back home. Did you know what happened to your mother? Did you know what happened to your sister at that time?
I really don't remember. I know that Sternheim, his father was in Amsterdam. I remember that he got mail from his father in Amsterdam. He also got money from his father. And that's not so surprising because Japan was a member of the Tripa of Germany, Italy, and Japan. So he got also money from.
But you don't remember for yourself if you had contact with your family at that time?
I really don't know. At that time, my parents were not in Antwerp, so I'm not so sure that I knew where they were, and I'm not sure that they know where I was.
Okay. All right. Now, after the Curacao, let's talk about the difficulties of getting a Russian exit visa. I mean, you have your Curacao transit, you have your Curacao visa, you have your Japanese visa, but now you still have to go through Russia.
I made an application for an exit visa, and after a while I was called to the office. I got a written invitation. I think I got it 3 o'clock at night. At that time it was the habit because Stalin worked at night. So Father Stalin at night, so the government worked at night. So at 3 o'clock in the morning I had to go to them, very friendly. I got it without any difficulties, no problem. And as I tell you again, I was a legitimate citizen. I was a Dutchman. I was not a refugee. I was not a Lithuanian. I was not a Polish. So there was actually no reason not to give me.
When did you leave Lithuania? When did you leave Lithuania? When?
I left Lithuania December 8th, 1940. Quite late.
Why so late?
Why so late?
Because you had your Japanese transit visa since July, right?
That's right.
So why did you?
I don't know. I had my family there. I wasn't so anxious to leave. I felt that a lot of people left late. I mean, there was no reason to run away. It was no hardship. I mean, I went away with a broken heart anyway. So, and time went fast by. I mean, from they came in June, in July and June, and it took some time till they nationalized and made a Russian province of it. And
let's talk about your train ride. What was your train ride like?
the train ride was very nice. We were a group of students and a few couples. I think it took 10 or 12 days. It was in the winter, but it was quite comfortable. We took along food, and we learned. We had from the yeshiva, there were also foreigners and a few couples. So we had a few times a day the train stopped for an hour or two. Once it stopped in the Jewish province in don't leave it. Don't say it. Don't hear it.
That's what I'm gonna put on this part right here. No, I'm just kidding.
The Russian made a Jewish state. They wanted the Jews. Everybody had a state. The Jewish state. Here, it was written also in Jewish on the station. The station master spoke Yiddish.
We'll think of it. Let's go to the next question.
It is on my
It
tongue.
will come to you.
Yeah, everybody knows. They wanted to make.
Arben?
No. That is they wanted to make as a competition to Palestine.
Oh.
They want to make a Jewish.
First time I heard about this.
It is on my tongue. Okay, maybe
Let's
my tongue.
talk about your arrival in Japan. What was it like to arrive in Japan?
Sensational.
Well, tell me. Japan.
First, we had a very bad boat trip. The boat was crowded, very crowded. And it was an old schmatte. You know what it is. And it was stormy. Very, very stormy. And when we arrived at Tsuruga, the view was beautiful, unforgettable. And there was somebody waiting from the Jewish committee who see that we passed all the formalities. I forgot his name. And we went by train to Kobe. And there were houses were prepared for the Azerbaijan, the Jewish state. It was interesting. Spoke Yiddish. On the train was written on the station. We stood there about but they complained. They had a bad life they had. On every station were Russians. They tried to change clothing. We should give them clothing. And on the way from Moscow to Vladivostok, on every station there were. We changed. We wanted to have rubles. So people gave them a coat and they got a few thousand rubles. I don't know what. And I didn't, but.
Let's talk about the first time you saw Japan.
So I came in, we arrived in Japan and we settled, we got in a house with my wife and with woman and I with men. I had already many friends. And right away, Wahrhaftig lived in Yokohama, but he came every week, very often. I visited him in Yokohama too. And he was really very busy. He was eating while he was on his way, and he was a very busy man. And I offered my service, and we did several things. We falsified telegrams. Sometimes it was okay. It went through. Sometimes not, because we wrote all visas in American consulate Kobe, and we made it like it all American consulate. It was a little bit lower. It looked like that was a signature. So sometimes the man asked, "Is that a signature or is that?" We said no. So we went out. We went to another, but it happened. It went through. And
tell tell me the story about the ship arriving with the 72 refugees.
Yeah, then on a certain date, I see it. I thought it was January, but later on papers I see it was in March. There was a ship with about 100 people on it, and they were sent back about 74 exactly the list. They were sent back to Vladivostok. Why? They had a Japanese transit, but they had no Curacao visa. So they came to the officials and they said, the transit to where? To Curacao. How do I know? How's it written? So they sent them back. There was a panic in Kobe, because to being sent back to Russia means Siberia. Couldn't mean anything else. So I went to the Dutch consul, de Voogd. Later he was ambassador, but at that time he was consul. And I told him the story. And the captain promised that if we get them Curacao visas, he will bring them back. He will not unload them in Vladivostok. So there was a time question, because it would take 3 days to go back to Vladivostok. So we had to have all the formalities within this period, and to let know the captain on the boat. So I went to the Voogd, a very friendly man, you see on his face. And he said, I told him the story. He said, but I cannot do it without I have to ask permission to the ambassador in Tokyo. And I knew that he would say no because of falsification. So I was very lucky. I had the letter from the Decker. I had the letter I had in my pocket. I showed him the letter. He read the letter. He said, for me it is okay. Now, there was another problem. There was a 3 days holiday. I came to the consulate. It was already in the afternoon. And the consulate would be closed for 3 days. So he said, you know what? I give you paper from the official paper from the consulate. Type out the text. Come to my home. And I'll sign it. And that happened. I gave and he told me, listen, if paper is wrong or so, give me back. I don't want that official paper with the Koninkrijk der Nederlanden, Kingdom of the Netherlands, should be around. So what he did, he started to count. The middle counted, he said, I trust you. He gave me so paper. This man was really an angel. He was a good manager. And okay, I gave it to the committee, and they typed out the text. And the gentleman, I forgot his name, went to the boat, took it along. The captain got first a radio on the boat, that the papers were in order, not to unload the people. Now Fischoff, I think, wrote about it. What Fischoff was on this boat, also a very famous rabbi. Other people, anyway, it was a nightmare, and they were decided they would throw themselves in the water. They wouldn't let themselves unload in Vladivostok, because that would mean Siberia. And according to Fischoff, the captain got right away the message, but he waited till the last minute. Okay. Anyway, they came, and next time again, when there came a boat, the Voogd gave papers in case, because there were still people who had no Curacao visa. They had a Japanese transit, and so it went. And at that time, I made friendship with him. Not beside this. There, I changed my mind also to go to Indonesia instead of Netherlands, East Indies, instead of Curacao. Because with me was a friend, a man, his wife, and a few children. His wife had a baby in Japan and the child died. And Mrs. de Voogd helped her a lot. And Mr. de Voogd, he was a doctorandus. He had the Mr. Nussbaum. And Mr. de Voogd got him a job in Jakarta, in Batavia, in Jakarta. So he was thinking, instead of coming to Curacao and being a refugee, I go to Netherlands, East Indies. I have right away a job. I don't depend on anybody. And there and then I decided to go with him, because I had also, I have a picture here. I had already a cousin in Indonesia, one in Singapore, and they lived there from the 1927s, Gutwirth and Zonen, Gutwirth and Sons. So I had already, their father was a brother of my father. But they were established in the Far East already many years, I think in 27 or 28, I don't know. So I went there and he took me in his firm. And we were like brothers till he died in 1980, so in 90s in Israel. We were in later. He played a big role. He had a Brazilian passport, so he was not interned. And he worked for the underground, and there were a lot of women, Indonesian women, but the husbands were in camp, and they were in difficulties, financial difficulties. So he gave a lot of money. He had a lot of money and collected. He was one of the few Europeans which were free. He lived at the house of the bishop. He was was a Dutchman. He usually lived in a hotel, but probably that was occupied, the Hotel de Zand. That was the biggest hotel in Jakarta, in Batavia. But probably the Japanese took that, and so. Then the Japanese found out of his underground work. They arrested, they tortured him. Actually, I have here an article which I wrote about him too, in an Israeli. And then they put him in the camp, in a civilian camp, yeah. Everybody knew what he did. He was known already. And after the war, he became president of the Red Cross in Indonesia.
Let's go back to the Vogue.
To the Vogue.
Okay.